It's funny being here in Idaho this week where there is snow on the ground and it's in the 30s and talking about gardening. But next week, the first week of April, I will be starting my seedlings. And so in preparation for that, I had been thinking a lot this year about planning for success.
As the granddaughter of a gardener, I learned to appreciate fresh food from a young age. Now with my own garden in the city, it's time to plant. As a registered dietitian, I'm inspired by the food I'm able to grow. I'll share my tips on how to be a nutritional cook and make homegrown the star of my recipes. Learning from educational resources, friends, and some wise seasoned veterans, I seek to uncover the secrets of gardening.
How I used to garden was throw in everything but the kitchen sink and just kind of see what sticks. And what I found was, since I'm in such a small space, my plot is about 12 feet by 12 feet in the city, that didn't work because things were overcrowded, things weren't growing right. I couldn't pay attention to the specifics that each plant required because I was just overwhelmed with so many different things. So what I wanted to do this year was really narrow it down, focus on a few things that I personally love, my favorite things to garden, and focus on those and making them really good. And so that was my goal this year. So with that, I decided to map out my space. And I would highly recommend mapping out your space that you're going to plant ahead of time. That way, when you go to the nursery or you're buying seeds, which is very exciting and fun, you're not overwhelmed in buying everything and then getting home and being like, okay, what do I do with this all? So, plan ahead. That's what I'm doing this year, and I think it's going to work out very well. So, this is what I came up with for my garden. And as you'll see, I have a mixture of herbs, flowers, vegetables, and these are all my favorite things. So in narrowing down what I wanted to plant this year, I wanted to focus on the things that I eat the most, that I enjoy the most, and the things I like to make flower bouquets out of. So with my garden that I've drawn up here, there's 3 things I focused on. The height of everything I'm putting in and thinking about how I want to lay it out, because in a small space, 12 feet by 12 feet, you have to be careful about shading things out. The other thing is sun. Where is the sunlight coming from? Are you putting in more things with sun that need and require sun, or more things that require shade? And the last thing is to think about is seasonality. So as things start to complete their growing cycle, what are you going to have in its place? So think about succession planning. On the front end where my gate is entering in, I'm focusing on lavender and herbs. So I'll be doing lavender, oregano, thyme, sage, and chives. And I'm also looking at a color scheme. So I have a lot of purples and greens up front. As you go backwards, I have peppers. I'll be doing jalapeno peppers, as well as zucchini. So zucchini gets pretty wide, but it does not grow very tall. So that's a good one to put for me in the front. As we continue to go towards the back of the garden, I'll be adding broccoli rabe. That does get pretty tall, but I have something that is also tall behind it. And on this side, I'll be putting basil and parsley. So as we continue to go towards the back of the garden, I'll have kale, which will get pretty tall, as well as tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, San Marzano tomatoes, which are really good for tomato sauce, as well as heirloom tomatoes. So 3 different kinds of tomatoes. And then as we talked about succession planning, thinking about seasonality of different things, I added a trellis for peas. So the spring will start off with peas, and the great thing is these will stop growing by beginning of July, so I can take the trellis down and it leaves a lot of room for my dahlias, which I'll have all behind here. And dahlias also get very tall, so they'll be fine in the back. And at the very top, you can see just the stems of my sunflowers. So sunflowers will line the back of my garden. And of course they're in the back because the sunflowers I'll be planting can get about 8 to 10 feet tall. So those will be in the back. And so again, the most important thing is planning ahead. No matter what you decide to do, have a plan ahead of time. You don't have to draw it out like me, maybe you write it down, but have a list ahead of time so that you don't walk into the nursery or order online a bunch of things and then say, okay, where am I gonna put it all? The reason why we're waiting till April 1st to plant our seedlings is because you wanna start your seeds about 4 to 12 weeks before you plan on planting them in the ground. Now you do want to read the back of the seed packet because it will tell you how long that they will take. So make sure you're reading the directions and planning and starting when is right for what you are going to plant. In the meantime, until next week, plan your garden space, think about what you want to grow this season, and start to come up with a plan so that you're not overwhelmed with a garden full of stuff this season, and try to narrow it down and do a couple of things really well. So I look forward to starting seeds next week, and until then, see ya.